In the red soil of Selukwe, the very same farm where young Josiah Tongagara herded cattle as a boy and Ian Smith built his empire, two men from dramatically different worlds would rise to lead opposite sides in one of Africa's deadliest conflicts, the Rhodesian Bush War. This is the untold story of Josiah Tongagara and Ian Smith, bound by the same dusty earth of Zimbabwe's Midlands yet locked in a brutal fight for the soul of a nation. From shared childhood horizons on Gwenero Farm to commanding the liberation struggle and white resistance, their entanglement reveals the raw tragedy, irony, and human drama of the Zimbabwe Liberation War that changed Southern Africa forever. Ian Douglas Smith was born on April 8, 1919, the son of Scottish immigrant John Jock Smith and his wife, Agnes. Jock ran a farm and butchery business, teaching his son the virtues of hard work, self-reliance, and attachment to the land. Young Ian roamed the hills, played rugby and cricket with vigor, and developed a reputation for toughness. He attended local schools, became head prefect at Gwalo's Chaplain School, and later studied at Rhodes University in South Africa. World War II interrupted his life. As a Royal Air Force pilot, he was shot down twice, once over Italy and once in the Balkans, surviving capture and evasion with the same stoic determination that would later define his political stance. Returning home, Ian purchased the 3,600-acre Gwenero Ranch near Selukwe in 1948, naming it after the local Karanga word for a clear stream running through the property. There, he raised cattle, grew tobacco and maize, and built a life with his wife Janet, whom he married that same year. Gwenero became more than a farm. It was a symbol of pioneering Rhodesian enterprise, ordered fields, sturdy fences, and a homestead overlooking the rugged beauty of the Midlands. For Smith, this land represented continuity, civilization, and the right of those who developed it to govern it. Not far from the main homestead, in the modest workers' quarters of the same farm, lived the Tongagara family. Josiah Magama Tongagara was born on February 4, 1938, into a world defined by colonial hierarchy. His parents worked as laborers on the Smith property, tilling fields, herding cattle, and performing the back-breaking tasks that sustained white-owned agriculture. Young Josiah grew up amid the red dust, herding livestock along the same paths Ian had once walked as a boy. He attended a local Anglican mission school up to Standard 6 and occasionally interacted with the Smith household. Accounts from those who knew the era paint a picture of tentative familiarity. Josiah reportedly remembered Ian Smith's mother, Agnes, with fondness. She would sometimes offer sweets to farm workers' children. As a boy, he served as a ball boy during tennis matches at the homestead, earning small coins to help his family. The two boys, separated by nearly 2 decades and the rigid color bar of the time, shared the same horizons: the scent of rain on dry soil, the lowing of cattle at dusk, and the distant call of birds over the koppies. Yet their experiences of that land diverged sharply. For Ian, it was ownership and inheritance. For Josiah, it was dispossession, the ancestral territory of the Shona people now controlled by settlers who had arrived with Cecil Rhodes's British South Africa Company in the 1890s. Colonial Rhodesia was built on this imbalance. The Land Apportionment Act of 1930 reserved prime farmland for whites, who comprised less than 5% of the population but owned over half the arable land. Black families were relegated to overcrowded tribal trust lands or existed as tenant laborers on white farms. As Ian entered politics, winning a seat in the Southern Rhodesian Assembly in 1948 and rising through various parties, Josiah absorbed the daily realities of inequality. He left the farm, worked briefly as a bookkeeper in Zambia, and immersed himself in the swelling tide of African nationalism. By the early 1960s, Ian Smith had become a leading voice in the Rhodesian front, stanchly opposing rapid majority rule. He argued that premature handover, as seen in the chaos of the Congo or other post-colonial states, would destroy the prosperity built through European initiative. On November 11, 1965, as Prime Minister, he issued the Unilateral Declaration of Independence, UDI, from Britain, framing it as a defense of responsible government and civilized standards. For white farmers like those at Gwenero, it promised continuity amid a changing continent. For Josiah Tongagara, UDI crystallized the need for armed struggle. He joined ZANU and its military wing, ZANLA. After training in China and Eastern Europe, where he studied guerrilla tactics and political mobilization, he rose rapidly. Following the 1975 assassination of Herbert Chitepo in Zambia, Tongogara assumed command of ZANLA operations, becoming a central figure in the Daire Re Chimurenga, ZANU's war council. From bases in Mozambique and Zambia, he helped orchestrate infiltration, the politicization of rural populations, and sustained pressure on Rhodesian forces. The same red soil that once witnessed their childhood proximity has now become contested ground. Gweneror, with its productive fields, exemplified the white farming sector that accounted for much of Rhodesia's export earnings. For Tongogara, it represented the very system he sought to dismantle. The entanglement was profound. Two men from Selukwe, bound by the same earth, now leading a war that would determine its future ownership and governance. The Rhodesian Bush War, also called the Second Chimurenga or Zimbabwe War of Independence, raged from the mid-1960s until 1979. It was a brutal, asymmetric contest fought in dense bushveld, across river valleys, and in rural villages. Rhodesian security forces, professional, innovative, and often outnumbered, relied on elite units like the Sealer Scouts, Fire Force airborne tactics involving Alouette helicopters and Dakota paratroopers, and aggressive cross-border raids. They inflicted heavy casualties on guerrillas but struggled against the political mobilization that sustained the insurgency. Under Tongogara's leadership, ZANLA evolved into a formidable force. He emphasized discipline, ideological training, and coordination with rural communities through Pungwe night meetings. Alongside Zipra forces from the rival ZAPU, ZANLA stretched Rhodesian resources to breaking point. By 1976 to 1978, with Mozambique's independence providing sanctuary and supply lines, the war engulfed the countryside. White farms, including those in the Midlands, faced landmines, ambushes, and attacks. Families lived with sandbags, emergency drills, and constant vigilance. Gweneror itself became a symbol of embattled white resilience. Ian Smith, as Prime Minister until 1979, navigated sanctions, international isolation, and internal pressures. He authorized controversial operations, including raids into neighboring countries that destroyed guerrilla camps but drew global condemnation. The war claimed an estimated 20,000 lives, guerrillas, security forces, and civilians caught in the crossfire. Atrocities occurred on all sides: farm murders, village massacres, and retaliatory killings that scarred communities deeply. Yet amid the violence, the personal thread from Selukwe endured. There is no record of direct personal animosity between Smith and Tongogara. The conflict was ideological and structural. Tongogara was a pragmatic military commander who prioritized ending the bloodshed once victory seemed assured, while Smith fought tenaciously for a negotiated settlement that preserved as much of the old order as possible. By 1979, exhaustion prevailed. Rhodesia's economy groaned under war costs and sanctions. The internal settlement with Bishop Abel Muzorewa created a short-lived Zimbabwe Rhodesia, but it failed to end the fighting. All parties convened at Lancaster House in London under British mediation. Smith, Muzorewa, Robert Mugabe, Joshua Nkomo, and their delegations negotiated amid high tension. Tongogara attended as a senior ZANU military figure and emerged as a moderating voice, advocating for a swift ceasefire and pragmatic transition. In a striking moment that encapsulated their shared history, Tongogara approached Smith during the talks. Witnesses described them embracing or speaking warmly. Tongogara inquired about Smith's widowed mother, recalling her kindness from his boyhood on the Gweneror farm. "Your mother once gave me sweets when I was a boy in your hometown, Selukwe." The exchange, overheard by delegation members, highlighted the human entanglement beneath the political divide. Two men who had breathed the same Midlands air now shaped the nation's destiny. The Lancaster House Agreement, signed on December 21, 1979, established a ceasefire, constitutional framework, and path to majority rule elections. Rhodesia would become Zimbabwe. Tongogara pushed for reconciliation and unity between ZANU and ZAPU, positions that reportedly angered hardliners. Tragedy followed swiftly. On December 26, 1979, just days after the agreement, Tongogara died in a car accident near Maputo, Mozambique, at age 41. Official reports cited a vehicle crash, but suspicions of assassination persist. Ian Smith later wrote in his memoirs that Tongogara's own people killed him, citing intelligence that he faced threats for his moderating stance and friendliness toward the Rhodesian side. Others point to internal ZANU rivalries. Tongogara's charisma, military influence, and popularity made him a potential rival to Mugabe. Pathologists noted injuries consistent with an accident, yet doubts remain. with reports of an inside job circulating even among diplomats at the time. Smith outlived his adversary by decades. He remained on Gweneror, critical of post-independence developments under Mugabe. Land invasions targeted his farm in 2000 and beyond. It was eventually seized in 2012 and transferred to a technical college. Smith died in 2007 in South Africa. His ashes were scattered at Gweneror, returning to the soil that first connected him to Tongagara.